Mackenzie. He's alleged to have incited his followers to starve themselves to death. BBC's Deputy Head of News, Jonathan Munro, is to take on the role of running the BBC World Service. It follows the departure of Lilian Landor, who warned against further cuts. That's the latest from BBC News.
You're listening to NewsHour. The aircraft manufacturer Boeing has agreed to plead guilty to a charge of conspiring to defraud the US government. That's after it violated a deal struck with the Department of Justice in the wake of two fatal crashes involving 737 MAX planes. 346 people died in two nearly identical crashes in Indonesia and Ethiopia. That was in 2018 and 2019. Well, under the new plea deal, Boeing will pay a $243 million fine and to investing just over $450 million to improve safety. But it has to be approved by a judge first. Erin Applebaum is part of the legal team representing victims of the Ethiopia crash. What's her reaction to the proposal?
We're disappointed the DOJ is still moving forward with its plan to give Boeing what is essentially a slap on the wrist for a corporate crime that murdered 346 people.
Why do you call it a slap on the wrist? I mean, it is a very big fine, as big as can be, as I understand it, under the law. Plus, they have to, invest nearly $500 million to improve safety standards. And they were admitting wrongdoing as well. Why does that not go far enough for you?
$500,000 to Boeing is a blip on its bottom line, and it's not going to do anything to change behavior. We want the fine to be in the billions, not the millions. We want the monitor to be chosen by the families or by the court. Our primary issue, though, with the fine is that it does not take into account the 346 deaths. And there was a judicial determination down in Texas by the judge who oversaw the first deferred prosecution agreement. He determined that Boeing's conspiracy was the cause of those deaths. The DOJ is supposed to increase and enhance the fines and the penalties when deaths are associated with the crime, and they did not do that here. Not only that, they didn't even mention the deaths, which we felt like ignored the dignity of the victims.
And does it preclude any other criminal prosecutions against Boeing for those deaths?
For the deaths of the people on the MAX flights, yes, it does. And DOJ has expressed to us that they believe the statute of limitations has run against any individuals who might be prosecuted for those deaths.
What about civil litigation by the families of the victims?
The civil litigation is scheduled to go to trial in November, but the thing about those trials is that they're limited to what we can prove for damages. We signed a liability stipulation with Boeing a few years ago where they conceded liability for the crashes, and we agreed not to pursue punitive damages against them. So liability will not be discussed in those trials. And it was very important for the families to have a public trial down in Texas on the criminal matter because they wanted the liability evidence to be seen by the public. And now it will be free forever. What the families want is accountability and justice, and that has not been served to date.
Do you expect this plea deal to be approved, which it needs to be?
We certainly hope that it won't be. We filed our notice to object to the plea almost immediately. We intend to be down in Texas and exercise the family's rights under the Crime Victims' Rights Act to tell Judge O'Connor why he should not approve this plea deal.
And what happens if it's not approved?
Then DOJ and Boeing have to go back on the drawing board.
Well, that was Erin Applebaum, who's part of the legal team that's representing the victims of the Ethiopia crash, giving me her reaction to that proposed plea deal.
You're listening to NewsHour with James Menendez in London and me, James Kimarasamy, here in Paris, where we are covering the aftermath of the surprising results of the parliamentary election in France. I'm in Le Ray Café in the Bastille area of the French capital as politicians on the left and the centre are working out their next steps after they won the bulk of seats in what is a hung parliament. There was a tactical pact between the left-wing coalition, the New Popular Front, which won the most seats, and President Macron's centrist alliance, which managed to thwart the far-right National Rally it had been hoping to pick up the most seats in that parliament. It came third in the end. Those two blocs, though, on the left and the centre have very different policies. That leaves no easy path towards forming a government. So for the time being, President Macron has asked Gabriel Attal, the current Prime Minister, to stay on in a caretaker capacity. Well, Marie-Charlotte Garin is an MP with the Green Party. It's one of the five that make up the left-wing New Popular Front coalition. I asked her for her reaction to last night's results.
I think a huge wave of relief. It feels like we avoided the iceberg. We had a very harsh campaign with, billionaire-owned medias pushing the far-right agenda. I think we can say that the